Hey guys, welcome to episode number 2 of our 1000 horsepower Forester build. In the last episode, you guys saw us put the heads on and start getting the long block assembled, and then we ran into some issues with a few missing parts since we're using heads that didn't come on the motor that I bought brand new from Head Games. So we were missing the avcs solenoid pipe and a few other things. So in this episode, we're gonna get the oil pump on, the water pump, the solenoids, we'll get the crossover pipe on, and then we will start assembling the PCV system, which we're going to have to change, which you'll see in the next episode. So stay tuned for that this episode, and then in episode 3 we're going to reveal our next power adder and kind of go through that system, and that involves some machine work and whatnot. So thanks for watching, and this is episode number 2. I'm not feeling great today, so we're just going to work in the shop and do a couple things, but I did want to get this on film. This is the piece that I was waiting on for the passenger side avcs. That's why I couldn't put the water pipe on or anything, because this has to sneak under there. On these V25 heads, you got to block off the back port back here and get oil from here and here. So you need this pipe. This is the new, or this is the part number. You can check fitment on that for yourself, but that's what we were waiting on. Flat Irons Tuning has a kit for this that comes with the pipe, the banjos, all the crush washers and everything, which is kind of nice if you don't want to figure it out. We'll be using a tap from here for the from Force Performance for the oil feed line, but I got the kit anyways because it's about the same price. So this sits right here, and the banjos and crush washers are there, and then it even comes with the bolt for the block there. And crush washer on top, on the bottom. This actually did come with the one of the banjos that has the screen in them, so that's nice for OE application. I'm probably going to remove it just because you always take the screens out in case they fail, but it is pretty nice. You can see it in there. Okay, I just removed the screen off camera there. You just put a pick in there and slide it out. It takes a couple seconds, but it's not bad. You can run them if you want to. That's usually where the metal collects, so if you're doing a motor that's blown up and you're redoing it, you definitely want to either pull the screen out and get the metal out, or replace the banjo so that it doesn't have any metal. This is the bolt for the center. Okay, now that those are in, we can lift up this pipe, put some dielectric grease on those O-rings, and then we'll get these in place. And then this can pretty much get bolted in, and that's what we were waiting on to do the front timing and everything. Alright, O-rings are lubricated. Let's thread this under here. Set it on there gently. And then don't forget your your PCV coolant rack here goes on some of these bolts, and you got to connect this elbow. I put these clamps on to orient them so you can get get to them after. This elbow is easy to get on when they're new, but they are pretty difficult to get off. They usually crack. I think it's from the heat from the block. That was easy new though. Alright, now this has to go back on. This one's a little finicky to get on these 2.5 liters because of the 3 different pipes that are on here kind of floating in that line there. It's up to you if you want to torque these down. I usually do because I've had these strip out on me a few times before and it's really hard to tap and get the bolt to thread back in nicely. They don't take a lot of torque either. I'll have to look up the spec, but I think it's only like 5 foot-pounds or 7 foot-pounds. Probably 5. There we go, so we got that elbow on. All these little bolts need to go in. And those are on. On this car we've capped off the throttle body coolant hoses. If you're going to do this, don't use vacuum hoses. Make sure you use coolant grade ones. We use the HPS ones. So this one and this one. Down south here where it's warm, you don't really need the throttle body coolant hoses. Also cleans up the bay if you're going custom like this with the manifold and everything. You want it to be as clear underneath as possible. Okay, I just did a few things off camera. Like I was missing the avcs solenoid bracket on this side, so I put those 2 in, and I'll pull the cam sensors and stuff in a minute, but I remembered that I wanted to get the oil pan on, so obviously don't forget this piece that goes down there. Make sure that the area is clean. This is a brand new block, so I don't really need to clean it much, but you'll have to scrape off some other stuff. Here's the 12mm oil pump that we put on all of our cars. Apply your Fuji Bond, smear it around a little bit. And put your bolts back in. These are new bolts because I used my other bolts on another car. You don't have to replace these bolts.
Then you're going to run around and snug them up, and then torque them down in sequence. On the closed deck motors, where we do the Killer Bee oil pans, we put a 12mm oil pump on there because the oil pan holds over a quart more. You don't have to put a 12mm on. You could do the 11mm. Stock is 10. We also don't really shim them unless you're shooting for higher RPMs and you need a certain pressure, and then you would take that spring out and shim it. Hey guys, back working on the Forester today. We have had to clear up a couple customer cars. They're all gone. The last project we have is this built EJ25. I just put the IAG PTFE lines on and everything. I'm just waiting to bolt down this intake manifold because I have some caps for the turbo inlet, since this is going to have a IAG competition AOS. But anyways, so that means that we can keep tinkering on this. One thing I was missing in the last video, which is why we had to stop, was the water pump bolts. So I just went to the Subaru dealer and got them. We must have taken them for another build. And I need to put the water pump on so that I can start building the timing out. Now you probably noticed in the other video that this bracket here is loose and it's also discolored. This is when you buy a brand new block from IAG, they don't come with this bracket, and I gave this bracket away with the Magnum motor that I sold, so this is an extra one I had. And it doesn't match the rest of the motor, so I was thinking about painting it. However, because of the level of power that we're going to run, we're actually going to upgrade this whole system to the RCM high grip tensioner, which replaces this whole bracket, and it uses the bar style, sort of how the older style tensioners were, with an offset pulley and then a little idler pulley, but it replaces this whole bracket, so that'll all be brand new. So it's just kind of sitting on there loose for now until I move it. That's on the way. It's just kind of a reminder. So I'm going to put the water pump on. I also got the port for the bottom of the block to run the factory oil cooler that I was missing, so I'm going to put this in, probably put the oil cooler on and get a couple things buttoned up, and then we can start doing the inner timing covers. I'll just have to wait to do the full timing set until that tensioner comes in, but she's getting there. Once we get the timing on, we really have to start mocking up that beautiful intake, which I actually need to rivet the cover on. They don't come with the cover, like I said earlier, so I got to find out what size rivets these are and get that riveted on. Then we can start mocking this up and see what kind of adapters we need to run our sensors on the bottom of this intake. And then we have a couple surprises that we haven't talked about, which we'll have to figure out how to run under here as well. So that's coming soon. Water pump bolts go in clockwise order, starting with this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You do 8.7, and then you go again 8.7 because they can loosen up a little bit. That's the factory sequence. if it's a factory part going on, you should definitely torque it if you can. There's no reason not to, unless it's an aftermarket part where you know you'll need more torque. Like we will be putting Loctite on a lot of these timing component bolts and anything that's got a fast spinning rotating assembly because of the RPMs we're going to push, which is not factory. Usually I don't need to put Loctite on things, and we sometimes torque a couple things down extra, but all these stock components should be torqued to factory sequence. So you start with this one. And that's it. That piece of rubber we put in there goes there. This one, the bracket has a piece that goes there, which we won't be using. That's on there, so then we would throw a thermostat in and that gasket. We're going to connect all these hoses and do the other side when we do the oil cooler. So this goes in here, and you have a stud for there. Put some Teflon tape on that. Teflon tape. Put this puppy in there. Okay, so this one is a 24mm bolt. It gets torqued down to 40 foot-pounds. This is a brand new factory oil cooler, orange O-ring. Put some lubricant on that, and then it goes upside down like this. Make sure the orange O-ring sits flat when you set it down. Then you need one of these studs, threads in. It is easiest to put the these elbows on before you tighten it all the way down. I just realized that I have the elbows, but not the. These little elbows have metal clamps with heat shielding on them around the engine there, and I don't have those clamps, so I'm just going to tighten this up for now so it's on here, and then we'll have to redo it after. But then we can get the crossover piece on that connects from the water pump and all that. That's the oil cooler setup. You have a elbow go from here to here, and then this one goes to the metal rail in front that bolts to that bolt right there. On the 12mm pumps, you got to grind one flange of the bolt off because this is filled in, of the bracket I mean, and then the other one goes from there. So you can put that on after, and your oil filter goes on there. We already got the motor mounts on. I wanted to put the headers on, but this is going to be easier to do without the header on, so you might have to wait. Okay, I ended up finding some used heat shield clips, so that's the way they go. So you torque this barb down, put these clamps on, torque that down, make sure the red O-ring is in the bottom there. Then you got two of these 90 degrees, this one here and that one there. I like to put the clamps facing down towards the oil pan so you won't see them. Put this thing on. I just painted that so that it looks nicer. Looks pretty good. I realized that I was missing this smaller hose that goes from here to here. And then this one I usually put hose clamps on because this one seems to tear on me. So I got one here, but I need another one. So I made a note for that. Had to order a new thermostat housing. But that's about all we want to do underneath the motor right now. Technically, I could put the headers on now. I may do that later, but might just wait and pop this on here. There's some other work we can do now because some more parts came back in. So I'm going to flip this motor over. We're going to do the air pump deletes on these. newer style heads, and then we're gonna pull this turbo oil drain off and also see if we have the banjo adapter for the coolant. Bottom of the right hand head on the passenger side, this turbo oil drain line sits right there. This is a press fitting, so you kind of wiggle it and pull it out. It's kind of hard to get out, and it leaves that hole. And then you can buy this part from IAG, which has these O-rings in here. It's a press fit in, and it's adapted to a -10 AN. -10 is the recommended size for most of the bigger turbo drains. So we're going to put some silicone on, or not silicone, some lubricant on those O-rings, and we're going to pop that in there, and that will get bolted in like that. And then from Precision, I bought the adapter flange here, which is, it's got an O-ring on the back side, and then it has these 2 bolts here, and then it turns this into a male AN as well. So now the oil return line will be just an AN line with 2 -10 fittings. One will screw into the turbo, one will screw into the block, then we don't have to worry about any leaks. It replaces this factory style rubber hose. Obviously this doesn't work with rotated turbos, so you got to do something. They do make metal kits, but I think the AN is the way to go. And then we will put the block off plates on here and here, and I'll show you when it's done. Trying to document this as well as I can in case anyone wants us to build our stage 3. Get the porting on those heads. In the last video you guys saw us putting them together, but it's beautiful. Head Games does an awesome job. So this V25 special heads, you block off the oil feed here. So this is the pipe I had to order that terminates here. And then I will pull feed from the turbo from this as well. This is the AN-10 bung in the block there. Block off plates. And there's the other one. This one is shaped like a fish with the fins, and it always points down towards the oil pump, so don't flip that over. It won't actually block the hole that's on this side of it. So this fits pretty good. This is not the right bolt. I just wanted to hold it in place. This one, where the coolant goes, we're actually gonna, normally it goes off to the side here, we're actually gonna run it straight up and down because the AOS system is gonna tie into it, since the Precision turbos are not liquid cooled.